this land is classified by government as grazing land, yet as it's all becoming quite apparent now, and more so as time goes by, that the regime the government are working on is that the primary land use here, whilst it is classified as grazing, is now becoming conservation.
We keep getting taken away from the day-to-day practice of just producing the food. So while our time's taken away from producing food, effectively our bottom line is getting lower. We seem to be literally being bashed to death. They've lost sight of what we do, produce food. We've been doing it for a century or more. Why are they doing that?
Look, a bureaucrat in Brisbane doesn't know rat's ass about this sort of country. Most of them never been out here. They look at satellite imagery, they draw lines, and they keep themselves in the job. But do they care about the environment? They don't care about the environment. They care about where they live in Brisbane. They want their park, they want their concrete driveways, their concrete waterways so they can sit on the riverbank without getting muddy feet and drink coffee. So they don't really care about the environment. They just care about their jobs, and they're doing immense damage to our economy with all this sort of environmental legislation.
You know, the way the regime works at the moment, they're saying that we can only now use 50% of that vegetation. I think we'll find in the coming months with a new term for the Labor government, with a majority, they are now going to implement further amendments to the Vegetation Act, which will change the system more so. It'll make it even harder. So what we've got is a situation where we're not being totally denied access to the vegetation, but it's been restricted to 50% maximum. So
he's not happy.
No. So in some areas it's less than 50%. That's the maximum that we can harvest. That's currently. I think we'll see in the next few months that will change. The proposed amendments to what they call the codes for fodder harvesting are going to restrict that to an area of 500 hectares, of which you can harvest a maximum of 50%. So you'll be restricted to only harvest 250 hectares. And depending on the vegetation, like the quality of it, we'd go through that in a matter of weeks. And the regime is just getting tighter and tighter all the time. Essentially, we're being regulated out of business.
That whole system of the family on the properties is something that we need to preserve, we need to protect, because that is the cheapest way and the most effective way that we're going to produce the food to feed our own Australians and to export. Once we change the structure of that, there's no coming back from it. We'll lose it forever. And the legislation is forcing the family farm out because it's taking the cream and the resilience out of our businesses.
That's right, and like you'd hate to see in our shire or any shires out west or Cunnamulla that our little towns turn into be a ghost town, because that's certainly not what we want. So we do need for people to be listening to us to make sure that these vegetation laws don't get any tougher than what they are.
We just don't have the numbers. So we're a voice in the wilderness, there's no doubt about that. It's quite concerning. It's concerning for my generation, it's even more concerning for my children.
The only thing that's going to change it is if we get governments off our back, out of our face, so that we can manage our properties like we have done in the past, like is proven in the food that we produce that is well sought after. Until we get that change, there is going to be a decline, there's going to be an increase in food costs. And not only that, the scariest thing is we will be sourcing our food overseas, not exporting. So the whole economy of Australia will change if we don't maintain the family farmers.
Mate, the biggest threat to our sustainability is not drought, it's not climate change, it's government. If there's one thing that's going to kill this industry, it's government.